Spearcast fans, we are back here with episode 10. Welcome back. And we've got a pretty juicy episode. We have our executive editor, executive man, Richy Zajic, joining me and Derek on the podcast today. And we've got a full episode for you in our 10th episode. It's a big milestone for us. Keep liking the videos, keep commenting, keep listening. We really appreciate it. We've got a lot of things to go over today. Again, along with Derek Gow, our executive editor, Richy Zajic. Let's just jump right into it, boys. Softball, they have had a really tough season. Their record was 9-20. You know, they've had it took. You know, they got swept their first series in the season against Stanford. Then they won 2 in a row against St. Mary's. So it looked like maybe things were turning around. But as the season went on, more losses piled up with the sparse win. But in late March and early April, there was a mysterious moment where there were 6 forfeits, 3 against Nevada, 3 against Las Vegas. And you know, for a while we didn't know why. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the investigation that's going on through the Mercury News with the scandal with our athletic director Marie Tuitt, and along with the our water polo team. And there was a new scandal coming up that one of the reasons why we did bring Richy on for is these forfeited games. Richy, what can you tell us about these forfeited games?
Yeah, so as you already mentioned a little bit, softball's had a tough run of it this year, not only on the field, but also off. As you mentioned, from about late March 27th, they forfeited their entire 3-game series with Nevada, and they had to forfeit the entire 3-game series with UNLV. It was a bit mysterious, as you mentioned, for a while there, but we have some information as to why they kind of had to forfeit those games. Kind of has to do with another thing to do with the athletic administration here at San Jose State. They're in a lot of hot water. Some of the current players on the team were allegedly caught drinking alcohol before one of the games. They claimed that this was some sort of tradition within the program. However, sources close to the team from past teams kind of deny this allegation that it's any sort of tradition, and that they wouldn't have had the success that they did in the past if this was some sort of tradition. Like, they claim that drinking alcohol before games is not any sort of thing that has ever been done in the past. Current players have kind of, pointed towards maybe it has something to do with former coach Peter Turner. That is not confirmed or denied yet. Past players also denied that as well. So we're getting more information. The Spear is getting as much information as we possibly can. An article should be up with by us sometime soon. But basically all we know is that it was some sort of drinking scandal, 6-game forfeits. The team's pretty embarrassed about it. Marie Tuitt is in some sort of new trouble. But that's basically all we have at this point. Peter Turner is also suing the athletic administration, so we'll get as many updates on that as we possibly can, as soon as we can. But former director of softball operations, Bob Perales, he was allegedly fired. It hasn't been confirmed, but that's what's been kind of thrown around recently, after relaying an anonymous tip about members of the team drinking. So allegedly he was the one that brought it forth, and he was fired for that, for kind of being a whistleblower. So that's basically all we know at this point. People are backing former coach Turner. People are claiming that it was some sort of tradition. So there's 2 sides. But yeah, that's kind of what we have about the forfeits thus far.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, especially that last part there where you talked about, you know, the whistleblower getting fired, because the same thing happened in the scandal that I looked into that wasn't able to kind of develop into anything. But with the water polo scandal, the head coach, who is not fired but is now suing Marie Tuitt of the water polo team, is was a helpful indicator and all that. I can't remember the name. I'm trying to pull up my article really quick here, but when it came to the water polo. When it came to the water polo story, the whistleblower, it was the compliance officer. I forget his name, but the team or the school compliance officer got a tip about what was going on, and he's now suing, San Jose State in the same way that Peter Turner is, and was let go, much like like you said, the softball operations manager. And so it's very similar. I mean, any sort of thing that goes wrong, it doesn't look good. Because if any little blemish comes up, San Jose State is just firing whoever it is, from what it looks like. Allegedly, we're still in that allegedly phase. which is not a good look. DQ, I know you haven't said a word yet today, which is unusual for you. Your thoughts on all these scandals going on and what's going on at our school?
Well, thanks for joining me. Just celebrating, Manchester City winning with, Max wearing the Arsenal jersey. But, usually we like to joke and kid around for majority of the show. But, obviously with now Richy reporting Richy and the editing team reporting kind of the news with the softball team, I think as San Jose State students, I'm embarrassed and it's upsetting. And I'm angry that, we have to just see this happen, right in front of our eyes. And, usually we should be reporting about just the box score and then what goes on between the field and the sidelines. And, but this is just, it's horrible. It's an embarrassment, just for our university that, every time I look at the Mercury News, it's like, oh, somebody's suing the school because, they didn't report the allegations of rape or whatever, right. Or the sexual harassment allegations. And, it's upsetting. And I'm not going to say names on whose job's on the line or whatever, but, the goal of an athletic administration and, this goes from middle school, high school to college, is to protect the student athletes and to make sure that they're okay, they're safe. Because if you're a parent, you're trusting, these coaches and these administrators to make sure your kid's safe, make sure they have a good, 4-year experience at, San Jose State or any school. Unfortunately, we have to compare this to like what happened at Michigan State with Larry Nassar and, obviously at Penn State, Jerry Sandusky. I know USC went through sort of a big scandal too, where they had to pay, I believe, like $12 million to a couple of former students that kind of the same thing that, water polo went through. So yeah, it's really upsetting to me. And I think we should all be angry because, this shouldn't happen to any one of us or, let alone any student athlete. And to think that, for the past, 10, 11 years through, I believe like 4 or 5 athletic directors and 3 presidents that, this continues to go on and we're just barely, wanting to find a conclusion right now. That's just disappointing. It's a slap in the face. There should be, something happen. And I know that, there's like 4 or 5 different lawsuits happening and we'll see if we reach a resolution by the time all of us go back to campus in August. But yeah, it's just really, it's sad. It's disheartening. And, this has been going on, the first reports came out over a year ago, like, in March, April. I just want to see the resolution and I just want to see the student athletes who, have had their experiences kind of just ripped away from them. From the trainer that, left and, just our athletic director, just not really taking the full initiative to help these student athletes out and our president too. It's disappointing. And, I just hope we reach a full resolution because it's just really, it's sad. You don't want to ever see this happen at any place, but especially at your university. And yeah, I know, tennis and football won their conferences and, it's great. We're obviously supportive of that. But when you have people that are not looking out for the student athlete's best interest, that's just sickening. And that's just a lack of, if I were a parent, that's just a lack of trust. And I wouldn't want to have my kid go to that school because, you're not really protecting, my kid's interests or you're not protecting, their safety. So it's just really, it's disheartening and it's sad.
Yeah. I know, Richy, I don't know if either of us could put that into better words. It's embarrassing. It's hard to hear and it sucks that we have to report on this. I spoke to the lawyer of Steve O'Brien, who was the school's NCAA compliance officer for the water polo team. And O'Brien was alleging that he was terminated for protecting a whistleblower, which was Sage Hopkins, the head coach of the water polo team. And in that discussion I had with Mr. Vassia, he gave me some insight. Like Derek said, it's been about over a year since we started hearing about things like this. They said they kind of started filing things on either March 2nd or March 3rd of 2020. That's a year and 2 months ago. David Rasmussen was also involved in this. David Rasmussen was an employee to make sure everybody was in compliance with NCAA rules, which makes it sound very familiar to the softball operations manager that Richy discussed in his article, which we will hope to have up soon. But it's unfortunate that these things continue to happen, not only here, but they continue to happen in other places around the U.S. Derek brought up Michigan State. That's many other places. And, it sucks to bring this up, but it's something that we as student reporters and reporters in general need to bring up. If anybody's looking for more information, once our article is up, which it should be, we're hoping for after this weekend, the Richy in his article has linked the Mercury News article with much more specific information with people who have a lot of connections and are able to get a little bit more information than us. But the Spear as a whole, we will do our best to give out any information that we have as quickly as possible. But let's move on here, boys. We've got the scanning out of the way. Softball hasn't been good on the field. So let's kind of move away from softball right now. Let's talk about what Derek brought up is, we had golf win the conference and go to nationals. Derek, what can you tell us about golf?
Yeah. So individually, we have a Spartan that will be heading to Arizona, Greyhawk Country Club in Scottsdale, and that is Kaja Arifal. I need to interview Coach Dorman and then get the official pronunciation of her name. But Kaja Arifal made the NCAA championship. She qualified. She shot a 4-under, 67 in the final round. She finished tied for 5th at 3-under. So she'll be heading to Greyhawk Country Club, and she's been having a really sensational, solid year. She's had about like 6 or 7 top 5 finishes. Her and Antonia Malate, as I've called them, they're the dynamic duo. The team didn't do so good as I hoped. I thought they would have some success considering they played at Stanford right around the March timeline during spring break, but they finished 9th at 23 over par. Let's just say, San Jose State, they're in a loaded field. You got Stanford, Wake Forest, teams that are going to go to the national championship and, our national championship contenders since the beginning of the season. Arizona made it. So I think the Spartans have a lot of room to grow as a team. They really had a solid season. And, I think Kaja is going to have a pretty good chance of just trying to make it win the individual title, which I believe hasn't been done since the early 90s. I believe I'll check, make sure before anybody, tries to brush off my golf knowledge. I know we got a lot of golf fans out there. But yeah, she's had a sensational year, and I was not surprised that she made it. She usually just saves her best golf for last, which is something special that takes a really talented player like Kaja to be able to shoot a low round under pressure like that, especially, when it's all on the line. So congratulations to her, and they'll be competing in about starting next weekend. It's May 21st, 26th at Greyhawk Golf Club, and it will be on Golf Channel. The final, 4 days will be on Golf Channel because it is match play for the team. So congratulations, Kaja, and I think she'll have a good success at Greyhawk.
Yeah, we may have just talked about some hard stuff to talk about. That's a great story. National TV for all those that get Golf Channel. It's going to be a great story, and to get something there, in a sport that kind of just flew under the radar for us this year, GQ, we know, Richy, both and I, we know that you're a big golf guy, so we're happy to have you discussing that and following that. We'll definitely provide updates from that, and it's going to be a big story. And moving on now to the next, I believe the only remaining SJSU sport going on right now is baseball, and they, like softball, have had a tough season, but it has not been due to lack of scandals. We know there was some COVID-19 issues in the beginning of the season, which delayed their season. They're at a record of 6-18 now, and they're on a 5-game losing streak. But one thing I do notice in their record is they have played 16 road games and only 8 at home. But their latest series against San Diego State and Stanford, they haven't gone well, except for Stanford, which was a very interesting game. They're the number 10 team in the nation, and they lost via walk-off in the bottom of the 9th inning and 8-7. Richy, what can you tell me about baseball season so far? They haven't won consecutive games. In a game against Cal on Tuesday, May 4th, they were up 10-2, I believe, and gave up 11 runs in the 5th inning. I covered that game, and they ended up losing the game 18-10. What can you tell me, whether it's player stats with Ruben Ibarra, going nuts this year, having a great season, Reese Hernandez, our pitching staff. What can you tell me about baseball so far? Bring us some positives, although it's been a struggle. They've had positive.
Yeah. You mentioned they haven't won consecutive games all year, but it's not as though this team is just completely down in the dumps. Like, it's really weird. This team is mysterious. Any given game, you could bet on them. Maybe they'd win. You don't really know, but like taking the number 10 team to a 1-run walk-off loss, like that's pretty impressive. But then in the same breath, 3 days earlier, you lose by 14, you get mercied by San Diego State, and you lose a 3-game series all consecutively to a Mountain West quote unquote rival. Ruben Ibarra, you mentioned him. He's been super, super on fire this year, but home runs can't get you wins every single time out. One player doesn't mean that the team is going to play all that well. It's not as though they haven't been putting up runs. Like you just read off a few of these, like 7 runs, 6 runs, 10. They put up 14 in the win against UC Davis, but that went to extras. That went to 11. It's hard to win a game when you're allowing 11 runs. Even they had to put up 14 just to get a win. So it's not as though their offense isn't, clicking, but they're just really hit and miss this year. Maybe that's because of COVID. Maybe that's because of other reasons. It's been a very unorthodox season, obviously, but no consecutive wins. That's rough. It's hard to get a momentum going when you can't string together a couple. So they're just a mystery to me, honestly.
Yeah, like Richie said, I they're a young team. They don't have too many seniors. For the program for Bat San Filippo. I think really the issue is just trying to maintain a lead because I've always seen Ruben Ibarra highlights, and rightfully so. He's put up monstrous numbers like I knew he would when the season got cut short last year. He's kind of carried over that his confidence has picked up, but you can see it too. I think it's just trying to maintain a lead. I think that's something that, I've played baseball before. So, before people start like, oh, you haven't played. I'm like, yes, I have played till pony, relax guys, calm down. Just take it easy here. I think with them, it's just trying to maintain a lead, especially, for any young pitcher trying to thrive off of the energy of the crowd, which, for San Jose State, they haven't been really able to do. And I know they're going to be doing that next week with a couple of their final home games at Excite Ballpark. But, I think that's just something that, comes with, just trying to learn to be a collegiate pitcher. And a lot of these pitchers are making that, big jump from high school to college, and it's a whole different ball game too. So, it's just kind of a hit and miss. And, sometimes you see them, win competitive games. And like Richie mentioned, the game against Stanford was wild at Sunken Diamond on the farm. And there's games, where they went to San Diego State, good old Tony Gwynn's, the late great Tony Gwynn's alma mater, and they get smacked like 12-4, 13-4. So I think it's just trying to learn how to win as a team. And they lost a month, I believe, due to they had a COVID pause in the program. So, I think it's just a learning experience. And I would expect this team to win more games next year, maybe, because, I think a lot of these guys just want to, for a lot of these guys, you just need to get games under your belt. And, they're just getting thrown into, trying to find, finding Dory a little bit, trying to just thrown into the Sydney Haba and try to, get wins here. But, I think it's just more just trying to get experience. That's the only thing. I think this team has the talent to win double-digit games, but they've played some real national title contenders. Creighton, I know they went to Omaha, and then obviously Stanford, San Diego State. So, it's just been a real tricky schedule for them, but luckily they get to finish in front of fans. I know the student athletes' parents want to see like a couple of the seniors that are still on the team, finally get that finale. So it'll be great to, be able to, I'm broadcasting the series next weekend. So it'll be great to just be able to actually see fans. I know it's going to be like student athlete parents or something like that. So it's just going to be fun. And it's better looking at actual people's backs, because I'm in the booth looking at actual people's backs than a skinny cardboard cutout like this that I've been staring at, at Seth Q now at Excite Ballpark. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, Derek, you mentioned title contenders. You forgot number 8 Oregon, and they played them in late April. They only lost by 4 to them their first game, but like Richie said, I mean, it's been really hit or miss. The next game against Oregon, the very next day, they lost 13-1. I think Derek hit the nail on the head. This is a young team. I think right now after that pause, they just wanted to get out and play. Yes, they do have a couple of seniors, but we've seen some great stories. Ruben Ibarra, Jonathan Clark has thrown some gems on the mound. And there's no reason why this team can't, get a few late wins here in the season. They play Air Force coming up this weekend, starting today with one game at 10. So in fact, they've already started. And then they play, 3 more games, doubleheader tomorrow on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. And then, then they go for their last 4 home games of the season, 1 against University of San Francisco and then 3 against New Mexico. Listen for Derek on the call. It's going to be a fun one. But, this team has been a little hit or miss, but I would say it's a building season. I look at this, young teams, I see a lot of young team issues. You could look at other sports. You could look at basketball. A lot of young teams, they struggle on defense, but they can score points galore. Hockey, you don't see a lot of defense. You see those 6 to 7 games, 7 to 6 games in hockey. One day you can just shut a team down, and the next they can go crazy and you could do nothing. It's just the experience. It's knowing what to pitch and changing things up. But I think his team has got a future. The coaching staff, they like him, and it's definitely something to follow in this building year. And, with, like Derek said, with fans back, I think that may give them a jump. They could win a few games at home. Maybe they'll win their first back-to-back at home. Getting fans in the stands. And I know the first instance of San Jose State getting fans back in the stands was the spring showcase for our football team, where Nick Starkel did throw a 72-yard bomb in a throwing competition. That's right. 72 yards in the air. Those Patrick Mahomes numbers, boys. But, it'll be good to see fans back in the stands. Pandemic is still considered to be going on. Hopefully everybody's got their shots. If any of you have anything more to add, now's the time to do it. Please, again, keep the Spear on hand for updates on what's going on with the softball story. Derek, I see you got yourself unmuted. I know you got one more thing for me.
Oh, we always have the last word. So 2 things. We'll start with the football team. Did you guys see those rings? I know we got
clean.
Yeah.
So
I know
clean.
we won the Richie. I know we won the California, college media, awards, and our peers at the Daily and Access magazine, which I helped out in the fall. I know. Should we be getting those or what? I mean, really. I mean, I know. I saw the name on it and the diamonds. We can go to Jason and Beverly Hills. Right in Richie's neighborhood. I mean, God. I mean, they did the whole. Usually when teams win the World Series, they do the whole tour and they show the diamonds and then the name and then climbing the mountain inside the rain. So man, those look sharp, and looking forward to seeing them on the field in September. I know the spring showcase. So it's good to see parents go to see their sons on the football field, because it's been a while since they've been able to do that in person. And then the women's tennis team, unfortunately, their season came to an end last week. I believe when we were editing the podcast, they lost to Cal in Berkeley. I think that's the 3rd time Cal's knocked San Jose State out of the NCAA tournament. And the game was competitive. I think a lot of the Cal's a really talented team. They've been a talented program for the past 10, 15 years. So I think it's just a lot of it was just unforced errors and forehands. And plus, there's nerves. I mean, when you're playing the 13th ranked team in the country, and you're playing the NCAA tournament, it is a step up in competition. So there's nothing to be hang their hat on. I know they wanted to finally get over that hump and get to the next round, but give credit to the women's tennis team. They won their second Mountain West title, I believe, in 5 years. But they went 15-2. They only had, most of their starters. I mean, if you look this year, they were all underclassmen, sophomore, junior, sophomore, freshman. So believe me, they're not done. And, I know they have 3 seniors on the team. And I think the good news is for tennis, you can start recruiting now. Of course, with a lot of the junior events are, starting to pick up again. So it'll be great to see, some of them maybe compete for a UTSA title. Of course, they have the Junior US Open coming up in September in the fall. So this team's going to be talented coming back the South Campus next year. And Manchester City won. I like to point that out. Come on, City. And then also Niners going 16-0. We will be in Inglewood, California. Or no, 17-0. They added a game, whatever, more money in the pocket. But 17-0, we will be in Inglewood in February to kick off the Olympic year in Beijing. So that's all to say.
Yeah, Richie, I know you're a big basketball guy. I believe there was an update on basketball either this week or last week, was it not? Didn't they fill out the coaching staff?
Yeah, they have not only Tim Miles now, but additional assistant coach. They got a couple recruits, one from Eastern Kentucky. I think he averaged around 18 there. So the team's looking like it's filling out a little bit. So, I mean, hey, some optimism. And just one thing before we get out of here, I just want to thank you guys for having me on here. Shout out the Spearcast. This was a lot of fun. And one more thing, shout out the Miami Heat, playoff bound, and UD getting ejected last night. That was fun to see. So
yeah. Yeah, but the Warriors are back, making basketball great again. We are in the play. I'm just gonna say it's a wild. I try to explain the play-in to my dad, and I just said it's like baseball's wild card because my A's, the team that's painted in my room over here, we've been used to that round for the past 3 years. So I just said it's a wild card. It's a wild card tournament. And I hope we get the Lakers. That's ratings galore, and then send LeBron to go show Space Jam a little earlier than he thought. I thought to say about that, but yeah.
Well, I guess the Knicks don't make basketball great again. I mean, they win 3 games and the world goes crazy, but we digress. Thank you, Richy, for joining us.
They're in the playoffs, though, so
yeah, welcome back.
Yeah,
we digress. Richy, our executive editor, thank you for all the great information with the softball story and helping us out today. I believe you were the first editor that we've had on a podcast that's not Ryan Carlson, who our usual host. We did have our graduate assistant, Max Betcolt, last week. So please follow us on Twitter at The Spear SJSU. Go to our website, thespearsjsu.com. Give everybody a follow on, we've got all of our Twitters linked, all of our stories. Please give us a read. Keep an eye out for Richy's story about the softball scandal coming up soon. Hopefully this podcast will be out today, Friday the 14th, or early tomorrow on the 15th of May. The story we're hoping to get out on Monday. But thank you, Richy and Derek Al, for joining me. And for The Spear, please comment on YouTube. Keep listening to us on Spotify. Follow us on the places I just plugged. For Derek Al, Richy Zajic, I'm Max Miller. This has been our 10th episode of The Spearcast.